Good evening. Welcome in to the official start of the Missouri football season here in 2025. Yes, it started on August 31st or 28th or something like that. Yes, tonight is October 6th, but we actually get to talk about real things that matter this evening. Gabe DeArmond here. This is State of the Tigers on PowerMizzou.com, brought to you by our friend James Carlton at Carlton Insurance in Webster Groves, Missouri. If you live in Missouri, Illinois, or Kansas, get in touch with James at carltoninsurance.net. Give him a call at 314 961 4800. Just get a quote from him, talk to him for a couple minutes, give him a chance to save you some money. That's a good thing for everybody. If he can't do it, no hard feelings. He's still going to do a little bit for Mizzou's NIL efforts for you giving him a call, but odds are he probably can save you some money. So again, carltoninsurance.net, 314-961-4800 is where you get in touch with him. I am Gabe DeArmond. Cody Goodwin is right there. Cody, what's up, man? Hey, it's like a real game.
Well, first off, I feel like a bad employee because I don't have my Power Mizzou background up. For those who don't know, I moved this weekend. I'm officially in Columbia for the first time since I've been on the job, and I just haven't set up the backdrop yet. So you're looking at a blurred, disheveled version of my workspace. So that's fun. What
That's
better
all
way
right.
to kick off the official start of the season, right?
Yeah, my camera and microphone aren't working tonight. So look, big prep for this show. This is how we do it here on Power Mizzou Freeway. Jared, always here with the super chat. We appreciate you, and thanks for being here. Any guys that want to do that, we will answer your questions. We'll answer the first one off the bat. Shirts staying on tonight. That's how it goes. But look, actual real things to talk about this evening. Missouri, Alabama on Saturday. And I don't know, man. Just start of the week. What's the vibe? What are your feelings as we kind of break this thing down for the first of many, many, many times?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. Probably because I spent 2 years covering Alabama and spent most of, I guess maybe not most, but half of my summer and off season preparing to cover the 2025 Alabama team. So yeah, like it's really interesting. We can discuss the clash of styles. We can discuss the fact that it's a top 15 matchup, the first top 15 matchup using specifically the AP poll in almost 50 years at Faurot Field. That's a big deal. We can discuss how Mizzou basically passed the first 5 tests of the season and have everything. They still have everything in front of them now. And I think maybe that's a good place to start, because I think when I look at this game specifically, I don't know that any result outside of maybe a lopsided loss really ruins the season for the Tigers. Like, I think if they win, then we can really start thinking really like a lot bigger about what this team is capable of and where they can go this season. I think we can still do that even in a competitive loss, because it's a 60-minute game played by 18 to 23-year-olds, and the ball is oblong and weirdly shaped, and sometimes it bounces one way and sometimes it bounces another. So as long as they continue to show out, I think Mizzou's in a really good spot. Yeah, like it's just so many different thoughts about this game, but I think I come back to the fact that this is a pretty big vibe check game for the Tigers, which is exciting because, I mean, if I feel like you and I were discussing it earlier via text, like there's so many different ways that this game could go that wouldn't necessarily surprise you and me, I think.
Well, and the beauty of the 12-team playoff is 5 years ago, this is an elimination game. Like, the team that loses this, things are off the table. Your season's not over. If you're Alabama, it's over, because Alabama is one of the 6 programs. The Cody Bowl, as Breaking Bob says, that starts the season where if you don't win the national title, it's a bad year. But most teams don't start the season that way. But now Missouri can afford a loss in this game. Can Alabama afford a loss in this game and still make the playoff?
I want to say yes, because it would be their first SEC loss. And so the fact that they got through Georgia and they got through Vanderbilt and they get Tennessee at home and they'll get Oklahoma at home and they still have to go to Jordan Hare at the end of the season, that one could be kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, I think Alabama could lose this game And it makes the path to the playoff harder, but it doesn't outright eliminate them because they still have the path through potentially winning the SEC. And, maybe that's another area that we could go when it comes to this. Like, I know that they kind of got blitzed in that first game against Florida State, but since then, they have rounded into what looks like maybe the best team in the SEC. I mean, name a team that's got two bigger, better wins so far, like maybe Ole Miss, but even then they've only played LSU. In terms of teams that we think are to be taken seriously in the SEC this year. Texas hasn't figured things out. Florida's 1-1. Georgia has looked shaky. They obviously lost to Alabama at home. Tennessee already has a loss. When you think about it coming into this week, who's a better team than Alabama in the SEC?
Yeah, Alabama's done as much as anybody, and we're going to talk plenty of Alabama in a little bit. But let's start with Missouri. The more I started looking into this, I realized I don't think we know very much at all about Missouri because, I know people get mad about the whole schedule thing, and Missouri does not have a weak schedule. The last 7 games, they're playing 4 ranked teams, something like that, 4 top 20 teams, plus Auburn on the road, plus Mississippi State still getting votes, I think. So this is not an easy schedule the rest of the way. It kind of has been an easy schedule so far. Missouri has dominated that easy schedule, but we're talking about what have you proven, and Alabama's proven something. I think Ole Miss proved a little, at least with the win over LSU. Georgia proved something by going to Knoxville and winning. Missouri really hasn't proven anything because Missouri hadn't had any chances to prove anything, and that's not their fault. That's Kansas and South Carolina's fault more than anything, but it's a fact.
Yeah, I think if you want to take things away from those 2 games specifically, it's that they played really good quarterbacks and they played them both really well, talking Jalen Daniels and Lenore Sellers. And yes, those guys hit some big plays, but by and large, Jalen Daniels is a dual threat guy, didn't really threaten at all with his legs. Same thing with Lenore Sellers. Part of that could have been his injury. And so the play calling might've been different. Yes, the secondary gave up some big plays over the top, but by and large, they were still able to win both of those games by both possessions. The thing with Alabama that really intrigues me is not only do you have an elite passing game coming in with the quarterback, Ty Simpson, but he's got some certified weapons on the offensive line, in the receiver room, even out of the running back, their top running back, Jam Miller. He's back healthy now. He made a difference in that Vanderbilt game. There is it's this is going to be the toughest. It's a duh because of the schedule that Mizzou has played so far that this is the toughest test. But this truly is the toughest test so far. And I know people have made a stink about the whole strength of schedule thing, but there is a lot of truth to it. Using ESPN's strength of schedule metric, Alabama's played the 3rd toughest schedule in the country this year. They're 4-1. We think based on the eye test that at least coming into this week, they look like they're at the top of the SEC. Mizzou has played, I think it's the 105th toughest schedule by ESPN's metric. So, which makes sense, right? And the good news is that Mizzou has taken care of business in a way that inspires confidence. Not every team takes advantage of their schedule in that way. So if you want to feel good about Missouri coming into this game, absolutely you can. And there's other reasons that you can feel good about Missouri coming into this game. One, it's at home. Alabama, I know they went into Athens and beat Georgia, but you and I kind of saw highlights from that game. There were maybe some plays there that Georgia could have made, maybe should have made to potentially win that game. How do those 2, 3, 4 plays going in Georgia's favor change the way we're thinking about this game? Because then that's another road loss for Alabama. And I know that they won that game, but they really have largely struggled on the road under Kalen DeBoer. And I know that the coaches and the coordinators, Kalen DeBoer and both the offensive and defensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb and Kane Womack, talked earlier today. They sounded good in talking about how they're not treating this like a trap game, right? Because I thought that there was maybe the potential that it could be a trappy game for Alabama, right? Because they had to get up against Georgia. They knew they had to get up and get revenge on Vanderbilt. They knew they're going to have to get up and get, because they want revenge on Tennessee because they lost that game in Knoxville last season. They get them again in Tuscaloosa next week. But this coming week is a top 15 matchup against a scrappy Missouri team, right? So there was that thought that maybe this was a trap game. The coaches all talked today and, they're very much focused on Mizzou. The lip service that they gave was that they are focused on Mizzou. A lot of respect for the Tigers, a lot of respect for Ahmad Hardy, a lot of respect for what the defense has been able to do. But this is going to be an intriguing test for many, many different reasons.
We'll talk about the trap game thing in a minute. I do want to address Kyler's super chat, talking about strength versus weakness on both sides of the ball, and we will break that down throughout the week. But the interesting part of this to me, this should be winnable, and that terrifies me. So like the gap between these two programs has never been less. Missouri, this is the sixth time they've played in the SEC. This is the first time the spread has been less than 14 points. The 2014 SEC title game was 14. Alabama covered four of the previous five. Like you said, you covered Bama the last 2 years. My opinion of this Alabama team, and I wrote it this morning, they are very good. They may win the SEC. They may win a national title. They no longer have the air of invincibility that the last couple of Bama teams that came here did. I mean, in 2018, Nick Saban's team came here and like there was no chance, right? In 2020, Eli Drinkwitz's first game was against Alabama, and those games were over in the first quarter. In 2000, I think it was 2012, Missouri's first year in the SEC. Alabama won pretty big. Eddie Lacy ripped off a 75-yard touchdown run on the first play of the game. And I remember kind of being told at the time that Gary Pinkel was in the halftime locker room, or maybe it was Sheldon Richardson. I don't know. Somebody was screaming at Missouri's team, you're making them look like the Green Bay Packers. Well, they kind of were compared to what Missouri was. This should not be a team going, oh no, it's Alabama. Oh no, we don't belong here. This is not even, if Missouri wins this game, it's not like the biggest upset that will happen this weekend. So I think that is a mindset adjustment for everybody entering this game. Hey, we're talking Missouri, Alabama, and Missouri should absolutely, I'm not going to say expect to win this game, but just kind of being close and, hey, we only lost by 10. That should not be a mindset this team has.
And I don't think it is. Like, you and I have sat through every press conference, whether it's pregame or postgame, and the players have made some not so subtle hints that they firmly believe that this Missouri team is capable of playing 14, 15, maybe even 16 games, right? So they are thinking long-term, we can make a playoff run. And in order to do that, you have to believe that Alabama can come to town and you are going to give them the fight of their lives for 60 minutes on a Saturday. So
here's where I'm going to disagree with that. Everybody says that. I've got to see Missouri do it. Right?
I agree with that.
Everybody says those things. Missouri was saying those things going to College Station last year or going to Tuscaloosa last year, and they didn't play like a team that believed it. So I need to see a team on Saturday that plays like they actually believe what they're saying.
So let me ask you this. It seems like a lot of the star players or the leaders on this year's Missouri team are transfers, right? Ahmad Hardy, Bo Perbula, Dame Wilson, Zion Young, Jalen Catalon, Josiah Trotter, all those guys, Kevin Coleman. Do you think that these guys within the first 5 to 6 weeks have collectively, do they seem more, they obviously are very physically talented. Do you think, you personally, because you've been covering this program forever, mentally, do you think they're ready for the challenge that's coming on Saturday?
I would be surprised by a blowout. Yeah. I mean, if we walk out of Faroe and they have lost this game by 17 or more on Saturday night, nobody's going to want to read my column. Also, the postgame show will be an absolute nightmare. But I mean, yeah, this team needs to be past that, because a year ago, when people have brought it up in the chat, I remember, I mean, it was kind of our fault because it was the first game after we joined 24/7, right? They're going to College Station. They're 4-0. They're ranked. It's this big deal. And they go down there. And I mean, just not for one play did they look like they belonged on the same field as Texas A&M. And this Bama team's a lot better than that A&M team was. But it feels like you should be past that, right? Like, that shouldn't happen to you, because Bama has won games this year, but they haven't blown anybody good out. I mean, that Vandy game was and we'll talk with Billy about it in a few minutes, but that was a 9-point game with 8 minutes left. Like, Vandy had a chance to win that game. That was, Alabama won, Alabama covered, but they are not out here doing what Nick Saban's teams did, where you just look across the line of scrimmage and you go, hang on, their third stringers would start here. That's not the case. Like, Missouri has guys that would play for Alabama this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of Alabama fans would probably, I know they love Jam Miller. I know they love the depth in that running back room, but I think a lot of them would look at Ahmad Hardy and be like, Yeah, I'd take
Yeah.
that guy in a heartbeat, right? Like, and
Right.
there's probably a
Like,
few players on Mizzou's roster that they'd be like, yeah, for sure.
Kevin Coleman plays for Alabama. Caden Green plays for Alabama. Damon Wilson plays for Alabama. Now, do they start? I don't know, but they absolutely play.
I agree with that. There's this Mizzou team, the on paper talent. You had said this before. Like the gap between Mizzou and Alabama is as small as it's ever been. And I honestly think like Mizzou fans should feel pretty good about Mizzou's starters and maybe at certain positions their immediate backups stacking up fairly well against Alabama. Like obviously Alabama, it's still Alabama. They've got a random 5-star that they can go pluck off the bench that will probably play and maybe make a play or two. You got to be ready for that. It's still like they're still one of the blue blood programs, but like Mizzou starters, and again, some positions like Mizzou's receiver room. I don't know if it stacks up exactly to Alabama's receiver room, but Mizzou's receiver room, they got to feel pretty good about the talent that's in that room. Running back room, they got to feel really good about not just Hardy, but Roberts and also Marquise Davis and maybe Tavares Jones, depending on what kind of play calls they have. They should feel, the defensive line, right? They've been rotating a ton of bodies on the defensive line through the first 5 games of the season. Those guys, in addition to the bye week, are going to come in fresh. They're going to come in ready. It's like there's a lot of position groups that Mizzou should feel really good about coming up, at least on paper coming into this game.
And it's, again, I know I'm going back to this, but it's not just the physical talent. Like, I do think it matters. And I don't think this is Kalen DeBoer's fault. I think Kalen DeBoer is a very good football coach. I think he actually has a chance to be at Alabama for a long time and do well. But, like, there came a time, finally, it took a long time, but where people weren't scared of Tiger Woods on the leaderboard anymore. Mm-hmm. And they finally won a couple times. There came a time, and there has come a time in the last 2 years where teams are no longer scared of playing the Kansas City Chiefs. They might lose more than they'll win, but they're not scared of it. And that's how I feel with Alabama. Alabama is going to beat a lot more teams than it's going to lose to. But opponents are no longer scared of Alabama coming into, like, the only teams that weren't scared of Alabama 5 years ago were Ohio State, maybe Georgia, maybe one or two other teams every year. Everybody else in the SEC knew when Alabama came into your stadium, like, hey man, just it's like somebody with Louisiana told me a couple weeks ago, right? Like, we're just trying to get out of here healthy and not get embarrassed. That's what teams were trying to do against Alabama for 10 years. And that's not the case anymore. Like, Missouri, I don't think should be scared of getting embarrassed on Saturday.
No, and I don't think they will. I think it's going to be a fun 15-round fist fight. Like I really think that. I think the strengths that Alabama has matches up pretty well with some of the weaknesses that Mizzou have. But then at the same time, Mizzou's strengths match up pretty well with some of Alabama's weaknesses. So it's going to be a fun little twist and turn, and there's going to be pulls and pushes, and I don't know, man. Like there's so many little mini chess matches in this game that I think are going to be so intriguing. And like, it could be like there's going to be a player that we won't talk about on this podcast, and maybe you won't get to, when you bring on an Alabama writer that is going to make a play for one side or the other that it may go a long ways in deciding this game. Like I don't know. It's going to be so interesting.
I want to make one more point. Billy, if you can pop up the last super chat that we had, it was something about Drinkwitz needs to win this game, kind of like the LSU game. There you go. It's from Crump. These are the games that Drink has not been able to win, like LSU 2 years ago. It is a fair criticism, right? The one thing Eli Drinkwitz has not done is beat the elite team, whether it was LSU 2 years ago, Georgia 1 and 2 years ago. Like, they've come close. They haven't won the game. And Cody, you and I were texting earlier today, and like, it was kind of the curse of what happened to Gary Pinkel. He, for years, like he started beating Kansas State and Colorado and Nebraska, which Missouri had not done for years. And so that elevated Missouri to a point. And then that next frontier was, okay, now we need you to beat Texas and Oklahoma. And for years, Missouri didn't do that because Texas and Oklahoma knew when Gary Pinkel's team was coming, all right, man, like, we really got to pay attention here. This is not Iowa State walking in, right? This is not 1996 Missouri walking in. Like, we actually have to play a good game to beat this team. And what it meant was Missouri often got Texas and Oklahoma's A game, which if Texas and Oklahoma played the A game, Missouri wasn't going to win. If Alabama plays the A game this weekend, there is a good chance Missouri won't win, right? Like, I don't think Missouri needs a D game out of Alabama, but it might need a B game out of Alabama. I don't know if Missouri beats Alabama's A game because I don't know if anybody beats Alabama's A game. But the point is, like, yeah, this is kind of the final frontier, that next step for Eli Drinkwitz, but that's a really hard step to take because there's a reason these teams are where they are. Almost nobody ever beats them.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not Saban's Alabama anymore, but you think back when it was Saban's Alabama, they were kind of that last boss at the end of the video game that other teams had to beat, right? Some years LSU broke through. There were a couple years where Georgia finally broke through. There were a couple years where I think there was one year where the kick six year Auburn broke through, right? And it was on the, I don't want to call it a fluke because the kick six is one of the all-time college football plays ever, but like it took that to knock off Alabama, right? And I don't know that it's going to take that to beat this version of Alabama, but I think that's a good point. Like Alabama's A game, I don't know that there's hardly any teams around the country that are going to beat Alabama's A game, right? Because they still, look, it's not Saban's Alabama. Like you mentioned, they don't have that air of invincibility. Like they're not going to be up 2 possessions just by walking off the bus. It's not that type of Alabama anymore. That said, still very, very insanely talented, right? Like I trust Bud Elliott's blue chip ratio. I trust the 24/7 team talent composite, even if it is a little inexact when it comes to how they calculate things. But like Alabama's number 2 in the country in terms of overall talent that is on their roster. That means something, right? Mizzou, I think when I checked, is number 22, right? So number 2 against number 22, right? Like that's not a big gap, but it's still kind of a big gap, right? And so like if Alabama comes out and plays their A game, like it's I think of when Mizzou and Alabama played men's basketball last year. And Mizzou shot like 60%, right? Like they couldn't miss. And sometimes like you just run into that every now and again. You have to tip your cap. That's a little fewer and farther between in football because there's 12 games as opposed to sometimes 40 in basketball. But every now and again you run into that, especially when there's so many conference games. Sometimes during the football season you run into that. I don't know if Mizzou is going to run into that this Saturday, but I did have a thought that popped into my head, and I'm curious now because I know that I don't believe Drink has beaten Georgia, but they have been very competitive with Georgia the last couple of times. And I remember after those games that Kirby Smart, Georgia's coach, he'd talk to media afterwards, and they would ask him, like, why was this game so close? Why did Mizzou have a lead? Like, what was going on? And Kirby, both years, I'm pretty sure, said they showed a lot of stuff that we didn't see on tape. They unveiled new blitzes. They unveiled new plays. They did this, they did that, and we did not see any of that on tape. Do you think, because this is like the first true big test of the season for Mizzou, do you think it could be something similar on Saturday? Do you think Drink maybe held some plays, Kirby Moore maybe held some plays, Corey Batoon maybe held some certain schemes and blitzes that they are going to unload on Alabama on Saturday?
I hope they did defensively. I mean, we have to see, like, I put and no big secret, right? Every quarterback is worse when he's pressured. But like Ty Simpson under pressure, clean pocket, he's got 9 touchdowns and 1 pick. Under pressure, he's got 1 touchdown. The completion percentage drops like 14% or something like that. There's a significant difference. So they have to find a way. And you're not going to sit back here and just stay in zone because Missouri is bad at zone anyway. So don't do that. You're going to have to be creative on offense. I think they have told Bo the last few weeks, don't run. He will not be told that on Saturday night. Or Saturday morning. He will be told, do what you have to do to win the game. And if that is running for 160 yards, then that is running for 160 yards, whatever it may be. So we will break down a million matchups and things about this game. But again, our producer, Billy Derrick, covers Vanderbilt as his grown-up job. He just does this for us on the side for funsies. And obviously Alabama played Vanderbilt last week. Billy, before I cloud your judgment and bias the conversation, like as someone who covers Vanderbilt, you came out of Alabama-Vanderbilt thinking what?
that Vanderbilt had a chance to win the game, and you could argue should have won the game. I think at the end of the day, and I thought this after the game, Bama wasn't losing that game. they were not losing that game, and so but I mean the first half it's tied 14-14. Vandy has a 65-yard touchdown. Pavia had a 33-yard run. Bama's run fits were pretty bad, especially from the secondary, and McElroy really showed that, and that's something I think you guys could look at, especially in film for both you guys, that if that happens against Missouri, Alabama's in trouble. But second half, Alabama did make some defensive adjustments. They just manned Vanderbilt up and said beat us on the outside, and Vanderbilt couldn't. And I don't think Vandy really can against Alabama and probably LSU with some really good defenses. It's tough. And Pavia's turnovers were killer. I mean, you just can't turn the ball over twice in the red zone and expect to win at Alabama. So look, without the turnovers, I think it's a tight game, and Vandy has a shot to win. But as expected, when you turn the ball over, you're not going to win in Tuscaloosa. But yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about it. Bama's not the Saban Bama, but like Cody said, and I'm glad he did, they have ridiculously talented players everywhere. Their offensive line has a chance to be really good. They're not, they're working on consistency. Their defense has some freak athletes. They're just not consistent. So if they ever put it all together, this team can win a national title. Chris Lee has said that, and obviously everybody knows that. But yeah, I mean, look, the turnovers were brutal for Vandy.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that was maybe the one game this past week, even while I was moving, I had that game on my phone in the car because I was just like, I got to see this. What's going on? Multiple takeaways from that game, but I think if you count it up just based on the drives, Vandy had 3 possessions in the second half where they got the ball with the opportunity to take the lead, and they punted twice, and then I think the other one was the interception in the red zone by Pavia. It felt like, and I'm curious your take on this. It seemed like Pavia tried to play a little too much hero ball. Like last year, because I was at that game in Nashville, he called his own number a few times, not a ton, but a few times. And the few times he did it, it was effective. This time it seemed like he called his number 2 or maybe 3 times as much. And Alabama was ready for it. Like they were like, you are not going to beat us. Diego Pavia is not going to beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And that just seemed really strange to me. Was that your takeaway, or what do you think ultimately happened?
Yeah, and he said it after the game. He said it was pressing. He took blame for it. He said, basically this game's on me. And if you go back and watch that interception, Keon Sabb was hiding behind the referee very smartly, and Pavia just didn't see him. And he's going to Stowers. Stowers had a lot of drops. When Pavia and Stowers play that poorly, if you're Vanderbilt, you're not going to win very many games in the SEC. But I did think he was pressing, and I thought, you go back and look at that game, he really didn't have any guys open. Like it was rare where he has, a guy wide open. That he found some seams early in the first half, but Alabama they said, we're manning you up and you're not going to beat us. And then they tried to throw some fade routes into the end zone, and nothing really worked. And so I'm interested in that regard toward Missouri. You can plan, to have Ahmad Hardy not beat you, but there's Bo Perbula. Vanderbilt had Cedric Alexander, who's a good running back. I don't think he got enough touches Saturday, because he was running the ball really well. And, look, Vandy also they got in too many third and longs also in the second half. So, yeah, I thought he pressed. Manziel's on the sideline, and Theo Vaughn, and his dream as a kid, he's talked about it, was beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So, it's hard to blame the guy. But there are other guys on Vanderbilt's offense that can beat you. But it's not as you look at Missouri, it's not as good as Missouri's. Like there are guys, outside of just Hardy that can beat you. So that'll be interesting.
So yes, Pavia is the focal point, right? But you kind of brought it up there. The other guy that deserves blame in this is Vanderbilt's offensive coordinator. Like Vandy averaged 7.1 yards a carry. And I understand that's a little skewed by a 65-yard run, right? But even you take that away, it's still about 4 yards a carry for the rest of the game. They only ran the ball 19 times. Like that is where this Bama team is vulnerable. They gave up 227 to Florida State, 232 to Georgia, 7.1 a carry to Vandy. What? Like Vandy was in a 1-score game for 3 quarters. Why did they stop?
Yeah, I do think it's easy to say that, and I was thinking that after the game, and I went back and rewatched and watched the time of possession. Vanderbilt only had like 10 minutes time of possession in the second half. So,
Okay.
and one of those drives, they were down 23-14, and I felt like that drive lasted forever. There were penalties. Pavia threw an interception, but it got called back. But they were just dropping back, throwing the ball. So I think a lot of it was that. So I think it is easy to say that, Gabe, and I thought the same thing. But I think the spots, like if you were to go back and watch a lot of that second half, the spots Vanderbilt was in, like there was a 3rd and 12, I think there was a 3rd and 9, and they tried, a couple times. But Alexander, like they didn't even try to throw a screen to him or throw, something quick to him. They tried a tight end screen with Spence. Alabama locked it up. Bama was ready for a lot of what Vanderbilt drew up, and so yeah, I think look, Vanderbilt is less talented than Alabama, but the fact they had a shot to win that, I think, speaks well on Missouri's chances on Saturday. If they don't make mistakes, mistakes are going to be massive.
Yeah, that's a key. And I know we talked about Bo Pribula as well. Just Gabe and I have talked at length about how we think there's going to come a time when he's going to have to lead Mizzou to a pretty big win. Like he is going to have, the ball is going to have to come out of his arm, and it's going to have to, like he's just going to have to make the plays. You can't rely on the running game. And I wonder, especially after watching what Alabama did to Vanderbilt, right? Like Vanderbilt's the offense goes through Pavia, but like it really, honestly, truly goes through the run game. When Vanderbilt is able to run the ball, that opens up all sorts of things for Pavia and Stowers, and that's when Vanderbilt's offense is clicking. You look at Alabama's personnel, that's a dang good secondary. Like they've got 5 stars on 5 stars all over that secondary. They've got guys who have All-American ceilings. I wonder if this is the game where Alabama just stacks the box and says, we're not letting 29 win. We need Bo Pribula. We're going to dare Bo Pribula to beat us. And oh, by the way, he's going to have to throw out a bunch of 5 stars in our secondary. Good luck. Like, what do you think that could be, especially after watching what Alabama did against Vanderbilt? Like, that seems like a game plan they could lean into.
I do. And they played a lot of zone in the first half. And Vanderbilt found some seams in the passing game, but nothing was open in the second half. And somebody mentioned, too, Pavia was rolling out a lot. Alabama was getting pressure. I mean, Jefferson had a great day. Bama, it's like their defense, when they want to be good, they can be the best defense in the country because they've got so much talent. But there's plays they take off, and they have really weird run fits from the secondary, and that's where I could see Hardy having success. But if you're Missouri and you're their offensive coaching staff, this Vanderbilt game came at a great time because you look at that and why would Alabama do anything different, especially what they did in the second half? Like that's going to be Alabama's game plan, what they did. And because you've got a running quarterback in Pribula, similar to Pavia. Cedric Alexander's not as good as Hardy, but solid. Hardy's an elite back. Alexander, solid back. Missouri's receivers, probably better than Vandy's, but not elite. But that's a similar profile of film watching this week if you're Kane Womack, and another big week for him, right? And so I think if you're Missouri, watch how Vanderbilt, even in the second half on that drive where Vanderbilt threw an interception, it was 20-14, and Vandy's driving down to potentially take the lead. But Pavia throws the interception. If they score or even get a field goal, it's a different game. Vandy was moving the ball. So Bama's defense can be moved, but you've got to finish drives if you're Missouri, because Alabama was 5 for 5 in their red zone chances. That's what they're doing. They're doing well in the red zone. They're finishing drives. So I think if you're Missouri, Bama's defense, they change when they're in the red zone for some reason. Like that Sabb interception was really interesting. How he kind of baited Pavia. So their defense is they'll bend, but they haven't really broken, and they didn't break in that Vandy game. But it's going to be interesting, but it's a similar type game. I mean, I think similar type game, especially if you're Missouri's offense as well. If you can run the ball well and establish that, I think Missouri definitely can win this game.
All right, Billy, I got to get you out of here with one that's just, it has nothing to do with Missouri, Alabama this weekend. But like, of the all-time things you've ever seen in college football, on the list of incredibly awesome, is there anything that's ever been higher than Diego Pavia practicing taking a knee on the field before the game? Because I don't even care that he didn't win. Like, just doing that shows the biggest set of nuts ever. And like, to his credit, cool, do it. Now, you got to take the crap for it after the game if you don't win. And as far as I know, he has. But I love it.
Yeah, it's funny because he does that before every game, but it's still
does he really?
Yeah, it's something he's done. We realized that I think last year, and I think it was before the Texas game where we first realized it, because we like to go on the field before and like he's practicing the victory formation. Does he know who they're playing? And so yeah, I mean, obviously Bama picked it up, and there were a couple other videos that were released of him pregame that I'm sure people have seen, but yeah, that they do that before every game. But he talked a lot, and I would tell this to Missouri as well. Just go play the game. Bama doesn't need any more motivation coming into this week, and so yeah, and they're playing on the road too. Like that's the other thing for Alabama. The last time they went on the road against a ranked team didn't look very good. So, but yeah,
last time actually did because it was in Athens 2 weeks ago.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I always forget that one was in Athens. So yeah, but no, I mean, he does that before every game, and I can see why the Alabama fans caught on to it though.
Yeah, I'm going to pretend he only did it for that game. It makes the story way better.
That's fair.
Appreciate you, man. We'll get to answering the fans' questions, but thanks for popping on camera. And look, as far as not insulting anyone or not poking the bear, so to speak, we got to get Cody back. There he is. As far as not poking the bear, we just got the email. We're getting Ahmad Hardy, Bo Prabula, Zion Young, and Jalen Catalon at Media Day. I think that's just who we're going to get every day at Media Day the rest of the year because Eli Drinkwitz knows, yeah, Ahmad's kind of funny. Zion has a way about him, but none of them are going to say anything stupid.
Yeah, and also like those guys are veterans. Like I know it's Ahmad Hardy's second season, but like those guys have been around the block. They've obviously been media trained. They're not going to say anything crazy. They're probably, Alabama does the thing where they do coaches on Monday and then players on Tuesday. So the Alabama players will probably be talking at the same time we're hearing from Drink. So, if anything funny gets said out of Tuscaloosa, like I guess we'll be sitting in there on our computers. But also, Alabama is usually pretty buttoned up about these things. They don't say anything funny pregame. They very rarely say anything funny postgame. Every now and again, you'll get a quip after the game as long as they win. But if not, they're pretty, they understand, right? Like those things get passed down, hey, don't talk beforehand, talk afterwards, let your play do the talking, this, that, and the next. Like that goes all the way back to Saban. Like those guys never had to say anything. They would always just go out and play the game. So I'd be surprised if anybody from Mizzou side said anything, I don't know what's the word, outlandish. It's going to be pretty tame.
I think the word you're looking for is interesting. I don't think any of them will say anything interesting tomorrow.
Well, we can write interesting things all week. Like we can say exactly what we want to say.
Just not quotes. Yeah. So, hey, I know we got a couple hundred people in here. We've got a lot of questions in the chat. We're going to get to those in a second. Make sure if you've got a question, put it in the chat and Billy will pop it up and next 20 minutes or so, we're going to spend answering those questions. Do want to remind you real quick mid-show, we are brought to you by James Carlton at State Farm Insurance in Webster Groves, carltoninsurance.net. Give him a call at 314-961-4800. They got people all around. He's my insurance agent. He's Drew King's insurance agent. Cody, if you don't have an insurance agent yet, call James Carlton. He's going to hook you up.
I didn't know I was grown up enough to have an insurance agent, but maybe I need one.
I mean, I don't know, man. I know you had to go off your parents' insurance 6 years ago. I hope you have something.
I just wrap myself in bubble wrap every time I leave the house.
Perfect. Taking a chance every time you walk outside. So yeah, let's go ahead and spend these last 20 minutes like we usually do, kind of answer the questions that you guys have. So Bridgeton Landfill Fume Huffer is asking, do you think 2.5 is surprising? I'm surprised by that line, and I expect it to go up later in the week.
It opened at 5.5, and then it
opened at 5.5, and it's come
pretty quickly dropped, I thought, today. So maybe it'll kind of make its way back. I think somewhere 3.5, 4.5 probably is where it'll settle, which I guess makes sense if you just kind of look at this thing on paper. But I don't know, man. Like I still think Alabama coming on the road, like that is, I know that they went between the hedges and beat Georgia, but like I said, like there were at least 3 or 4 plays that if Georgia makes those 3 or 4 plays, and they probably should have, they win that game. And then what are we talking about here, right? So I'm still, the whole Alabama going on the road under DeBoer thing interests me. And I think if you're looking for a reason to feel good about this game as a Mizzou fan, I think that's one.
And to be fair, and I agree, the last two games Alabama has played do give you some hope as a Missouri fan, but also I've said this for years, like every game comes down to 2 or 3 plays, and the good teams make them, and the bad teams talk about how close they were to making them, and that's the difference. But here's what surprised me about the line, and I don't gamble, and I don't know a ton about it, but what I do know is that the early money tends to be like from the public, right? Like the line comes out, and that's when all the degenerates that lose money to the casinos are out here going, okay, here's the games I like this weekend. I'm getting in early on the lines, all that. So the early money comes from the public, and then the the big time money comes in like Friday night, Saturday morning from the professional gamblers, right? So the interesting part to me is that the early money has pushed this line toward Mizzou, because I would have expected, if a line comes out with Alabama by 5.5 over Missouri, I would expect the general casual college football gambler to go, Alabama by less than a touchdown? Give me that. It's done the opposite. The casual money has pushed this toward Missouri.
I find that to be interesting, which makes it,
Yeah.
like it's I don't know, like I don't pay too much attention to betting lines, just never been my thing. But I do find it interesting how quickly it fluctuated, and I will be intrigued to see just kind of where the line lands over the course of the week.
Yeah, and look, I generally think if the line is less than 3, you're basically saying this is a pick'em. Like, who would ever bet somebody minus 2.5 points? Yes, I think this team's better, but I think they win by less than a field goal. I mean, the odds of winning that bet are very, very small, I would think.
Right. Yeah. So I think that this is trending toward a one possession game, no matter who wins. At least that's the way that's at least the most likely scenario if you were to run this game 100 times.
If Floyd the Barber wants to know, why do you think Mizzou hasn't taken any deep shots since the touchdown in week 1? Now, I'll be honest, I don't know if that's actually true, right? Like, there may have been a couple, but I think the main reason is they just really haven't had to.
I know that they try. I mean, against South Carolina, I don't know that they necessarily wanted to. I mean, they took a receiver off the field because they ran a ton of 12 personnel, right? And so like that just kind of limits the guys that you can send deep, right? So there's one reason. I think they had drawn up a couple of deep shot plays against UMass, but that just so happens to be the few plays that Javen Richardson got beat, or Bo stepped into some sacks or stepped into some pressure. So like I know that the sack right before halftime, that was set up to be an attempt at a deep shot down the field, and the line kind of blew up, right? So they tried a couple of things against UMass. Against Louisiana, they didn't have to, because that was just like, let's just give Hardy the ball because he's going to run for 15 yards every single time. So I would be surprised if they didn't try to draw up some deep shots against Bama, if for no other reason than to keep that defense honest, right? Because if you just let Alabama pack the box and put 8 or 9 guys in the box to try and stop Hardy, like in theory, that means you've got man on the outside, right? So you got to at least test those guys. And if they can hit on a few of them early, like that's something that a key thing to watch, and maybe something I'll be writing about later this week. If Mizzou can hit on a deep shot early in the game, that I think will shake loose the Alabama defense. And I think that's going to open up some running lanes for Hardy and Roberts.
So 2 things off that. First off, there is an old saying in football: 3 things can happen when you throw the ball, and 2 of them are bad. Part of the reason Missouri hasn't thrown the ball deep, I think, is I think Eli Drinkwitz very much thinks, well, if I can just hand the ball off and get 6 yards of carry, why would I ever throw the ball? Like, if my guys are hanging on the ball and they're not stopping it. So that leads to this. Do you go into this Alabama game with the attitude of, the strength of our team is our running game, we're going to do it until they stop it? Or do you try to fool the fooler and come out and do what they don't think you're going to do? And do you take the deep shot early? Do you come out throwing to throw them off balance early and then hope that works and you can come back to Hardy?
I think they're probably going to attempt to do a little bit of both, right? Because like, what's something else that we have seen almost every single game this season, and especially in some of the bigger games against Kansas and South Carolina, some tight end leak action, right? So like, I think this could potentially be a pretty big game for Brett Norfleet, just both as a blocker, right? Because you got to make sure that Hardy has openings to get down the field, but then also as a receiver, right? Like I think he's another pass catching option that could potentially loosen up Alabama's defense. And like, if you want to go play action to a tight end leak down the field, Norfleet is probably going to be the guy that they're going to design that play for, right? So I wonder if they try to throw a few different things at Alabama early, if for no other reason than to keep the defense honest so that it sets up the run, right? Because one thing that Kirby Moore has been really, really good at is lining up in very similar formations and being able to run multiple plays out of those formations. So in theory, the defense doesn't exactly know if you're going to run the ball, if you're going to play action pass, if you're just going to drop back and pass based on the formation, right? Like there's only so many cues that they can have. And then at that point, they have to guess right. Some of those plays against UMass, for example, the defense guessed correct because they were ultimately able to beat the offensive line and beat the protection. So they were able to get after Bo. But I wouldn't be shocked to see, like, and this kind of goes back to the point that I was making, you know, when Missouri's previously played Georgia, where after the game, Kirby would be like, they showed stuff that we hadn't seen before and we weren't ready for it. I would not be shocked to see them take a similar approach against Alabama offensively.
Give me a number. Like Missouri has to get to this number rushing. Like, can Missouri win this game if it doesn't run for 100 yards?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I mean, especially okay. Florida State.
So
got
what's
to
that
what?
number? Like Missouri's got to. Florida State got to 227.
I think for Mizzou to have a legit shot, they probably need to get to like 200. Probably, I would think rushing yards.
That high.
Which I think is doable given what Alabama's pass defense, or not pass defense, but run defense has shown. Like I know that they limited Vanderbilt to like 138 yards or whatever it was, but part of that could have been panic play calling in the second half, even though they didn't necessarily need to do that. And 138 yards at 7 yards a carry still. Like it was kind of bizarre that Vanderbilt still, even when they were within a possession, still didn't lean on the run a little bit. Because like even Billy made the point, like they only had the ball for 10 minutes in the second half. When Vanderbilt won that game last year, they held the ball for 42 minutes. And it's because they were able to execute some short passing and they kept Alabama off balance with kind of, you know, a weird rushing attack. So yeah, I think Mizzou is going to have to probably hit 200 rush yards as a team. I don't know if it needs to be Hardy alone hits 200, but you know, probably somewhere between 150 and 200 to give themselves the best chance.
I would put that number closer to, like, I think Mizzou can win at 140. I don't think they can win at 100. But if they do enough, you know, because I think they are going to, like, I don't think Kirby Moore will go away from it. You know, but again, this goes back to nothing in this game would really surprise us. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll be a little surprised if Missouri wins 42-17. You know, but other than that, nothing will really shock me. So yeah, I know we got a few more questions we need to get to. I love Marquise Johnson. Are you concerned with him running backwards after catching the ball? I don't know if concerned is the right word, but we certainly noticed it in the last game. I may have referenced Demarcus Robinson's name in the press box, and yes, that needs to stop. He needs to not go backwards.
Yeah, it's not it's when you're drawing comparisons to Demarcus Robinson, for those of you who
it's
are
almost
fans,
never good.
It's never a good thing. It's never a good thing. I will say this, like Marquise Johnson has only 64 yards after the catch this season, which, you know, he's got like 150 yards. So about a third roughly of it has come after the catch. And I think one of those has been, you know, on a really long pass catch and run, something to that effect. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I say this, whether it's a running back, whether it's a receiver, whether it's a tight end, for either team, like whether it's Mizzou or who they're playing, like you'll hear me say it, Gabe, all the time, like get north and south, get north and south, get north and south. Like, because like I personally, as a football fan, I don't have time for people dancing after they catch the ball. Like,
also preferably more north, less south.
More north than south. But yeah, just like get up the field. Like, even if you know you're going to get hit, just like fall forward. It's an extra 2 yards. Like, just take it every time.
It's what makes Ahmad Hardy so good.
Yes.
Right. Every time it's just, yeah, whatever, you're going to hit me and I'm going to carry you for 16 more yards, you know?
Yeah. And I know we joke about like Marquise Johnson, like with comparisons to Demarcus Robinson, but like by and large, like through the first 5 weeks, Missouri has done a really good job. And I'm going to steal a line from Cole Kublik here. They take the free grass. Like when Bo sees the matchup he likes and the defensive back or the linebacker or whoever like is guarding his guy, like if they're 5-10 yards off of him, like he knows exactly where he's going and that ball is out in a hurry and it's at least 5-6 yard gain. Like Missouri does a really good job of just taking it and going. So I know we're making fun of Marquise Johnson here, but like by and large, the offense has done a really good job of just like the yards are there, we're taking them and we're moving forward.
No question. Camden Ross, what does Ahmad's stat line need to be to start getting Heisman attention? Look, here's what I love about this game. everything Missouri fans are asking for and think they haven't gotten, you can get Saturday. If Ahmad Hardy goes for 150 on Bama and Missouri wins, they will be in the top 10. They will be in everyone's playoff, and Ahmad Hardy will be in everyone's top 3 to 5 for the Heisman. Like, it is all there to take. And if you don't win, and if Bama holds him to 17 carries for 64 yards, then you don't deserve all that talk anyway. So we get the answer at 3:00 on Saturday afternoon. We get the answer.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think stat line needs to be to start getting some serious Heisman attention. Like, I wouldn't worry about that if
he needs to run for 100. He needs to run for 100.
I would say probably somewhere in the ballpark of 120 and 2 scores, but like, I wouldn't worry about that. We know that Missouri needs a big game from Ahmad Hardy if they want to win this game. I would be more focused on Missouri winning this game, because you know who needs to star in order for the Tigers to prevail on Saturday. And if Ahmad Hardy is a big part of that equation. And if they win and he balls out, yeah, he's going to garner Heisman attention, I think, no matter what his stat line is, unless he really does get shut down and Bo ultimately takes Mizzou to victory. But like, we know that he's a big part of the equation for Mizzou to win this game. So like, I would not worry so much about the Heisman attention and focus a lot more on just like, what does Mizzou need to do to win this game? Obviously, it includes a lot of Ahmad Hardy.
Because the number that Ahmad needs to be in serious Heisman contention is 10. They got to win 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, because if they don't, a running back on a 9-3 team is, unless he runs for 2,000 yards, is not getting that kind of consideration. Like, it's just not going to happen. You've got it, especially in a 12-team playoff. I would be shocked if anytime in the next 20 years a player that's not in the playoff wins the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
Although it happened last year. But
well, that's Travis Hunter's a unique.
But that was a different deal, right?
Very, very unique. But yeah, like it needs to be on a team that has the potential to make a deep postseason run, and that player has to be a large reason why we believe that team can make a deep postseason run. Like, I think Ahmad Hardy fits that bill. He still has to go do it. There's 7 more games where he's got to go perform.
No question. Larry, besides Hardy or Bo, who's the most important player on Mizzou's team Saturday? I mean, for me, it's Marvin Burks.
Okay, I'll hear that.
Don't get and Marvin Burks and his friends in the safety room. Quit going toward the line of scrimmage. Don't get the ball thrown. Like, it is very important for Missouri's defense to understand in this game. Alabama's going to make some plays. Like, you're not shutting Alabama out. They are going to have a few drives. Ty Simpson is going to make some throws. Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard are maybe the best 1-2 receiving combo in college football. Like, they're going to make plays. It's fine. They might even get a 25 or a 30-yard play sometimes. Don't let it be 65 or 70. That's the key.
Your goal is to pick yourself back up and play the next play. I know I sound like a coach right now, but like, that is incredibly important to, like, if you give up 25 yards, that's fine. Make sure it's not 60, like you were just saying, but you got to get back up and you got to play the next play, because a team like Alabama that's explosive like that, 120-yard play could immediately lead to another 40-yard play. And next thing you know, they're in the end zone. And you can't let that second big play happen immediately. Like, they're going to make plays. You got to live with that. You just can't let them come in succession over and over and over again. And also, if you're Mizzou, you're a team that's capable of making big plays too. So like, if you get punched, stand back up and punch back. Like, you're capable of doing that. I would argue, in addition to Burks, I'll give you 2, Zion Young and Dame Wilson. Like, those dudes, like, I've seen the secondary. They need to prove it to me that they can do it before I really start believing in them. So until then, the pass rush, who has shown us that they can do it, and they've really been able to do it without any sort of like exotic blitzes or fun schemes or stunts or games or anything like that. Like, they've just been able to beat the guy that's in front of them. I know that the Batoon's called a few different things, where like Khalil Jacobs runs in late, or Trotter runs in late, or, you know, a couple things like that. But like, those 2 dudes on the edges need to win. And especially like when I think about Alabama's offensive tackles in this game, Caden Proctor, he's 6'7", 340. He's strong as an ox, but like, he hasn't exactly lived up to the top 10 potential NFL draft billing that a lot of experts think he's capable of. He's good. Don't get me wrong. At times he can be very, very good, but he can be had. He needs to get had in this game. The other tackle, based on what I saw in that Vanderbilt game, is going to be a true freshman. His name's Michael Carroll. He was a 5-star. He's really, really good. I think his future is more at guard than it is at tackle. I think he's really talented. I was a big believer in that guy when he signed with Alabama last year. He's still just a freshman. He's going to be playing on the road in an SEC game. Zion Young and Dame Wilson need to take advantage of that. Like those two guys, like until the secondary shows me that they can do it, the pass rush needs to be on point to make life easier on the secondary.
I was looking at Alabama's PFF numbers on the offensive line, and Caden Proctor actually, I believe, is in pass protection is the lowest graded, like regular lineman that Alabama has played. Now, the good news for Alabama is it's cool because he's a running back, not an offensive tackle, so it doesn't matter.
He's also a receiver too.
Right. Jason Franken's asking if there's an update on Caden Green. Officially, no, and there won't be one tomorrow. Now, I will tell you, the guy who posted on our message board first that he was hurt posted he is expected to return to practice and give it a shot in hopes to play. But this is going to be a game time decision on Saturday morning. I don't think there's going to be anything before that. If there's anything before that, it's bad news. Because if there's anything before that, he's gone out and practiced and they've decided he can't do it. I don't think we're going to know that Caden is playing until we get to the stadium at 8:30 on Saturday morning and see them go through the walkthrough.
Yeah, I think the most optimistic for Caden Green's prognosis was that he would be back for this game. I asked Drinkwitz last week during the bye week, like, is there an injury update? Not just on him, but also on like Dre Norwood and Jordan Harris. And he gave me the coach speak, like, you'll see on the availability report next week. Actually, I think at first he called it an injury report, and then he cracked the drink joke where he's like, actually, I think it's an availability report. So,
and that's what he'll tell us tomorrow too.
Yeah, like so no, we don't have an update, but the most optimistic of his injury, like that scenario, is that he'll play this week, but we'll see.
All right, we got three more, so I want to finish these out, and we'll finish up. I think we got another one from Jason. Did Penn State keep the wrong QB? So let me start by saying this: Penn State did the only thing it could do. You've got a first-round pick at quarterback who has been your starter. You have to keep that guy. James Franklin, like, don't get me wrong, he may suffer bodily harm and lose his job anyway now, but had he told Penn State fans coming off the playoff, we're going with Bo, like, you can't do that, man. So, like, he did the only thing he could do. Now, it has not worked out. I don't know that that's all Drew Aller's fault because, like, Drew Aller played all right on Saturday. Penn State put up 37 points on the road. That game wasn't Drew Aller's fault. All his friends on defense forgot to go to the game.
Yeah, 19 of 26, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like
career high 78 yards rushing. He was fine on Saturday.
Yeah, he played fine. Like I know, and even like in crunch time against Oregon, like he made some of those throws that make the NFL scouts go, "Oh man, this guy might have it." Like it's such a rock and a hard place for Penn State fans because it's like, you know, do you go with the unknown, which at the time was Bo? Like all you really knew is that he could run the ball and that he was a good athlete, or do you go with the guy that you know and you can trust? And I mean, I know that coming into the season, they had returned and kept everybody, including a lot of pieces offensively that they wanted to surround Aller with to really make a run this year. Now they're pretty much on the outside looking in at the moment. So that's such a hard decision. Like it's easy now with Bo having played 5 games for Mizzou to be like, oh man, Penn State screwed up. But like at the time, you have no idea.
Also, who's Bo played? Like if Bo goes out and throws 3 picks on Saturday, nobody's asking this question. Right. And like, look, I understand Drew Aller has not lived up to what the number 1 high school quarterback was supposed to be. He hasn't. He's had some big games where he hasn't played well. Saturday was not his fault, in my opinion. So it's interesting. I know they're always going to be compared. Like I saw one of the bowl predictions has Missouri versus Penn State in the Citrus Bowl. Like that would be fun. We would not get to talk to Bo all week, but it would still be very fun, you know. Taylor and Travis's offspring is in our chat and has a question. So that's good. Did Diego Pavia deserve the heat he's getting? 100%.
Yeah.
You
that's
talk
the game.
like he talks, you take the shit you get back.
That's the game, man. Like if Vanderbilt would have gone into Bryant-Denny and won, he would have been absolutely like Alabama fans would have had to have sat and listened to him spout off in the post-game presser, whatever tweets or whatever he would have said. They would have had to have dealt with Johnny Manziel saying whatever he was saying. Like that's the game. Like if you take a big swing like he did, talking all week and practicing his kneel downs in the pregame. Like, you have to, you can walk that walk, but you also you got to deliver. And if you don't, you got to deal with the consequences.
Right. And I like guys at the time. Like, I think it's great. I liked that Diego Pavia said what he said. And if I'm being honest, I kind of like that he got knocked down a peg too. Like, all good, man.
I'm still a Diego Pavia fan.
I will second that.
There you go.
Also,
Billy
being in the stadium, Alabama fans are not fond of him.
No, when Alabama fans decide that they hate a player, they hate that player. And like, not that their lives are in danger, but like ton of heckling that goes on at Bryant Denny.
There you go. All right. I think this is a good one to finish up with from Chris, because we talked about Ahmad Hardy's production, about the running game, all that. I think this is actually the important number when it comes to Ahmad Hardy. How many touches do you think he will get? Like, I think how many times he touches the ball may be more indicative of how Missouri is doing on offense than the sheer number of yards, right? Because like, if he has 25 touches, Missouri's winning this game, because even if the 25 touches don't get 200 yards, they have the ball, they're moving, he is doing enough. And I don't care what the yards are. 25 touches is my benchmark for, he touches the ball 25 times, I think Missouri wins.
Between 25 and 30. And I think something to keep in mind, again, kind of circling back to that point I was making about when Mizzou played Georgia previously, and they unveiled a lot of things that they hadn't shown on tape while playing Georgia. Ahmad Hardy this season has 1 catch for 2 yards. I'm just saying, if they're holding things, that could be something to point to on Saturday. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they got him. Somebody in the chat earlier said, like, I want to see running back wheel routes. I want to see him split out in the slot, maybe split him out all the way wide, like really put that defense in conflict to just move 29 all over the place. Like, especially if he gets going early in the run game and they have to make sure they identify where 29 is before the snap every single time. Like, I'm sure Kirby Moore's got a few plays in that playbook where they move him all around, orbit motion, split out to the slot, split out wide, where that's just that defense. It may spin Alabama's defense, but I think you really only start to truly unveil that if they can get the run established early on. I don't think you go to it as like a, what's the phrase? I don't think you go to it at a moment of desperation just to try and create something. I think that's part of the evolved game plan, where if you can get the run going with Ahmad Hardy early and then switch it up with Roberts and then put 29 back on the field and move them all over the place, that'll really put that defense in conflict.
Also, just a note, it's not illegal for Jamal Roberts and Ahmad Hardy to be on the field at the same time.
Oh, sign me up for some pony personnel. I lived in Big Ten country for a decade, so I love me some multiple tight end sets, 12 and 13 personnel. But if you put 2 running backs on the field, that'd be a lot of fun.
That used to be a thing that happened all the time. I grew up watching the Wishbone. So appreciate all you guys being here on a Monday night. There is another football game going on that I know has some of your guys' attention. Going to have our attention here in a minute. Scott Fitz, the super chat. Rather get beat blitzing than let Samson pick this secondary apart. 100% agree with it. Like, if you're going to go down, man, go down. Don't just sit there and let Ty Simpson throw for 345 against soft zone coverage. Couldn't agree anymore. Scott, appreciate the super chat. As always, appreciate all you guys being here. Check out our friend James Carlton, carltoninsurance.net, 314-961-4800. Cody, from each of us, one last thought. You got a closing thought here as we, now actually, like, it seems like this game is here, but we've got 4 days still to talk and write about this game.
I'm excited, man. Like, I'm excited for the stories that we're going to get to tell this week. I'm excited to finally get, the Mizzou side of things. We listened to Alabama's coaches earlier today. I'm excited to listen to Drinkwitz and the handful of Missouri players that we're going to get tomorrow. It's going to be fun all week. Like, I'm excited because, like, I used to cover Alabama. Now I'm covering Missouri, and I keep saying it, but like, buckle up, man. Like, this is going to be a fun week, and Saturday is going to be a really, really fun game.
Yeah. My closing thought is kind of the same. It's like, we've had 3 have to work days this year. Like, UMass, Louisiana, Central Arkansas, those were days you have to work. Saturday's a get to work day. Saturday's going to be like, this is why you guys care. This is why we do this. This is why all these kids came to the University of Missouri to play football, is ones like this. National television, first game of the day, and all you hope is it lives up to the billing. Like, take your shot. You may not win the game, but man, just don't walk out of there like we walked out of Kyle Field last year or anything like that. That's no good for anybody, and we don't want to write that story.
Yeah. Did you come to play or did you come to win? I'm pretty sure both teams are coming to win on Saturday.
Well, I mean, last year in College Station and frankly in Tuscaloosa, Missouri didn't do either one. They just kind of came. They were there.
Well,
they were.
They had some injury issues when they came to Tuscaloosa. Like, I cut them a little bit of slack there.
Didn't have that excuse in College Station, but no, we expect this to be a good one, a fun one. Appreciate all you guys being here tonight and all week long. I mean, media day tomorrow. I'm going to have another podcast previewing Alabama later in the week, all kinds of stuff till Wednesday night. If you were here and you don't subscribe, 50% off the first year of your subscription. So please come join us. Big week. And guess what? The rest of the weeks are all big, guys. I mean, no matter what, the season's not going to be over no matter what happens on Saturday. But if you win this one, then the next ones just keep getting bigger. So appreciate y'all being here. Appreciate Billy helping us out. Cody for joining, James Carlton for sponsoring, and we will talk to you next time.